for me was the most important to check my beliefs,
Mm.
to see what am I currently believing about relationships, about men, like what are my beliefs and how are those beliefs actually limiting me from having that in my life. Welcome to the Seeing in the Dark podcast, the podcast for new ways of leading and doing business. No more separation between money, power, and leadership, and being a deeply spiritual human being. Seeing in the Dark is about walking paths that have not been walked before and truly making a change in a world in which old ways are crumbling. My name is Nemanja Sonero, CEO of a multiple six-figure soul-based business, and here to take you into the mysteries of purpose, power, intuition, and soul-based leadership. May you embody your own unique essence so deeply that your vibration naturally teaches, inspires, and assists others. Let's dive in. All right, welcome everyone to this first episode with a guest in this new season of the Seeing in the Dark podcast. And today's guest is a really special guest because it's my beloved Nemanja Sonero. Yeah, I wanted to create an episode. I invited him onto the podcast because we wanted to create an episode about how we met. And the reason why we felt would be nice to share is because this podcast is all about living from the mystery, living from your inner voice, from your intuition, from your resonance. And Nemanja doesn't like the word resonance. Hello?
I have some resistance toward this word.
Because we've had quite some challenges coming up in our relationship around having resonance and the mystery at the core of our relationship. But we will share more about that in the next episode.
We'll keep it there.
We start first with the calm stuff today. Yeah? All right. So the intention of the episode today is, first of all, to share our story, but also very much to share with you a few things that we felt were really helpful in attracting a deeply aligned and nourishing relationship, but also a few tips that we found very helpful in taking care of the relationship once you are in one. Yeah. So where should we start? There's so much to share.
From the beginning.
From the beginning. So let's start with before we met, like who we were, because there's definitely a Nicole before, let's say 2016, and a Nicole after 2016. And that was still a few years before we met. But one of the main things that I was believing about men and relationships before 2016 was that there were no or very, very little conscious men on this planet. And if there were any, then I didn't like them much. So I was having this belief about men that would make it very, very hard for me to meet deeply aligned partners. And so, actually we would go already into the tips, but like, who were you? Who were you before we met?
Well, before we met, I had a transition in my life because I was actually married.
Yeah.
And 2016, 17, it was already coming to a closure, that whole story. And it was a beautiful relationship. We were still in touch, and she's a dear friend of mine, and the family included. But I felt there was a closure in not just of the marriage, but also of who I was or who I thought I was. And I just felt there's parts of me which are not fully expressed and parts of me which are needed to be let go of. And that was kind of my journey after I split up with my ex-partner, to step more into that, but first to give space to myself. So I spent a lot of time alone.
Yeah.
And traveling and just moving to different places just so I can feel myself, who I'm actually me when I'm alone. This is very important for me.
Because that was the first thing you named, right? Like when we were tuning in, like what were the the four things that really helped us to make space for a deeply aligned partnership and relationship, because we both felt that manifesting like a deeply aligned relationship was not so much about trying to chase that, but more so about making space for that inside. And the first thing that Nemanja named was spend time alone, spend time being single. And I actually really resonate with that because I was traveling for a few years before we met. I was traveling the world by myself, like having all the space to get to know myself beyond my normal environment, get to know myself like, yeah, outside of my familiar space that I was living in for 30 years in the same village. So I totally agree that it has been really powerful to spend time alone and spend time single to really get to know yourself beyond who you think you are, or who you think you should be, or to really explore yourself in all the freedom.
Because for me, in that sense, in that story, it's a lot about when I'm with someone, it is also natural to in some way merge or meet the other person's energies. And in those moments, especially when I was younger, I was not always sure who am I when I'm with someone. And this is kind of my exploration, how I can be more myself with a partner, in a room full of people, on an event I teach. So who am I in that, and how can I go more and more to meet that? And one of the ways I did that was to spend time alone.
Yeah.
And sure, I meet people, but like just deeply diving within and going into the dark, so to speak, to get to know myself, so I can emerge with another one day as me.
Yeah. That was the first one that you named, and the first one that I named was for me was the most important, to check my beliefs, to see what am I currently believing about relationships, about men, like what are my beliefs and how are those beliefs actually limiting me from having that in my life. And like I said, the biggest belief was that there are no conscious men on this planet, or if there are, they're very, very few. And I could see how that belief was creating my reality. And so it took me a few years actually to start to meet more conscious men. And then that belief shifted to like, oh, actually, there is lots of conscious men. There's just not one that I feel attracted to. And then that changed into making even more space and also starting to meet men that I was feeling attracted towards, right? So it's really beautiful to see what beliefs or what assumptions do you have about a deeply fulfilling relationship and partner, and see how you can shift those beliefs into beliefs that are making more space for that partner actually making it into your life.
Yeah, I included, I had quite some beliefs and also doubts that I can actually meet someone who is interested in the things I'm interested in, the deeper work, hobbies maybe, or just direction. I really had to, in those times alone, to look within. Okay, hey, where am I actually like trying to also sabotage myself, basically, and also to check in my own worthiness, because sometimes I would not feel worthy to meet a woman like that. So that was quite a revelation for me once I let go of that and come back to my own clarity and yeah, just love for myself. Things start to happen on their own, so to speak.
Beautiful. Yeah. So that was 1 and 2. The third one was creating a vision. And we did this in a different way, right? Like I joined the program actually. It's called Manifesting Epic Love with Leonie Gabriella and Clement Thomas, 2 dear friends of ours. And it was 2018 when I was in Brazil, when I joined that program where we'd create a really super detailed vision. Like I actually have it here, and I would love to read out loud some things that I wrote down, because it was a very specific vision that actually, when we met, I checked it and you were like, literally everything was in there. It's cool, right?
It is.
So one thing that it says, for example, we travel the world while making our money, and we are fully committed to expanding in ourselves, in love, and in life. I open and grow fully into my blossomed self, and I am myself without masks or holding back. We have a nowhere to hide energy between us, and he can guide me through self-exploration and introspection. We can talk and share silence. We explore and see each other with fresh eyes in each moment. I'm supporting him and holding space for him, and he can do the same for me. We are staying strongly connected to our resonance. Oh my God, the word again. He's handsome, sexy, sportive, and has a healthy lifestyle.
Check.
So I see that a lot of the things in my vision had to do with inner qualities. I didn't have like, oh, he looks like this or but that can also be included in the vision. I think like one of the things that really were powerful for me in creating this written vision were the non-negotiables. So those were things that if my partner would not have those, I would not be in for the relationship. There are things that are so important that they are like non-negotiables. So one non-negotiable for me was he is deeply committed to his own growth and expansion, committed to being the most alive version of himself. I had one that he's deeply committed to the growth and expansion of our relationship. I feel you are very much like actually often more, even more so than me. He's deeply committed to supporting me in my growth and expansion and to me being the best version of myself. He's committed to his health and loves high vibe food. He's able to travel the world with me and open to share a location independent lifestyle. And he is warm and loving. Those were my non-negotiables.
Did I pass all of them?
You passed all of them. And then one other tip, because I'm not going to read the whole vision because it's a lot. But one other tip was a section where I was sharing about being with my partner, I feel. So it was very much about tapping into how am I feeling? Like it was almost imagining you and feeling like how I'm feeling in the relationship. How am I feeling about you? How am I feeling about the life that we have together? And I wrote things down about that. And a lot of them actually are very present in our relationship.
You want to read a few? Just quickly. I'm also curious because I haven't seen that in a long time.
You haven't seen it in a long time?
I think a few years.
It says, being with my partner, I feel my whole body deeply relaxing. And I remember actually that when we met, that's the first thing my body did. I feel what my body learned with you the most was how to surrender. Because I was really bad at that. And my body naturally did that because like when we met actually in Nemanja's dance workshop. And we had like, basically our first meeting through dancing together. And my body just felt like, this is going to be the father of my children. That's literally the first thing that crossed through my energy, like very clearly. I didn't share it with him because I thought I should not share this with him because he's going to think I'm crazy.
Yeah, if you did share that, I'm not sure how the next day would continue.
Yes, exactly. So those are a few things, how I feel. And like, how is it for you? How did you create your vision?
For me, I didn't write it down, even though I know the power of writing things down. The word itself written on a paper, processed through the body, yes, but I haven't done it in this way. What I did, there's many moments I remember. One of them is I went to Bali, 2017, and this is the tattoo. I did that moment. We'll get to that story, but the point is, I went to Bali. I took a month for myself. And I had a whole vision of I'm going to eat slow. I'm going to take time for each bite to chew. And I started creating all these little habits so I can slow down. And in those moments slowing down, I actually started to visualize or to feel that person somewhere, just to connect to that. Maybe some people call it soulmate, flame, whatever you want to call it. I just felt I want to connect to you, even though I didn't know it's you, I want to connect to that person within myself, and to see also how do I feel when I'm with that person, and how that feel, that of course create a lot of interesting things which I haven't felt before. And in that expression, I realize, hey, this is how I want to relate one day with my partner. This is how I want to feel with her, how I want to be. So in that process, my body started feeling that vibration, if I was speaking those terms. And I feel that that kind of vibration attracts, now when I look back, reverse engineering all these situations and moments and directions which led me to meet this person, that met me because that person met this person, that space, that country, and then I met Nicole.
Yeah. And that brings us basically to the fourth main thing that we felt was super helpful in making space for a deeply aligned relationship. So the first one was spending time alone. The second one was checking your beliefs and see how you can shift them into beliefs that are actually more welcoming of that partner. And the third one was create your vision and include how you are feeling with that partner. And the fourth one is to follow your resonance or follow your inner voice in each moment, because I think I can also speak for you that we believe that your dream lifestyle or your dream self unfolds through following your intuition in each moment to the best of your ability, right? Following that deeper intelligence that guides you through your intuitive pulls, through your excitement, through your joy, through following your aliveness. And so I don't actually remember how I came to your photo. Yes, I also went to Bali and I was following Conscious Art Tattoos, which was a tattoo shop in Ubud. And I was scrolling regularly that page because I loved the style of tattoos that they were doing. And I remember seeing a photo of Nemanja, but I only saw the lower part of his face, like his jaw and his like beard and his tattoo on his hand, the spiral tattoo on the hand. And I was like, wow, this guy looks kind of sexy. And I click on his photo. So we actually met on Instagram, guys. Like, who would ever think of that? I would never have imagined I would meet my partner on Instagram. But I went to his profile and I saw in your bio that you were teaching Kizomba and African dance. And those were the exact two dances that I wanted to learn back then. So I was like, cool. He's also teaching these dances. So I decided to follow him. And as I was scrolling, I was like, oh yeah, I like him, but he also looks a little bit weird. Like you would like have your hair like super wild and do like crazy things on your feet. And I would be like, I'm not so sure. And then actually for a year or so, we didn't even meet yet. We would sometimes, you would actually message me. I still have the first message here. In the first message you wrote to me, hey, hope you don't mind me writing, as I'm not sure we have met before on some dance festival or something. You've been popping out sometimes in my newsfeed and my curiosity tells me to ask. So you followed your curiosity, love. And then I said, hey, you passed on my newsfeed as well. No, we have never met. I don't even know how I arrived at one of your pictures. That was a bit of a lie because I actually followed the tattoo
So
shop.
she was lying, just to note.
But I did, and I really like your vibe, so I followed you. I feel a wish to dance Kizomba for years now, and I never did. And I saw that you're dancing it, and it excited me. So that's what happened.
Yeah, it was interesting because I remember I saw this girl liking, I mean, I didn't have many followers there, so when someone likes my stuff, I check. And I was curious to check her profile specifically, and I went in. And I also felt she's a bit weird. But
I think I had my head shaved at that time, maybe.
yeah, but the thing is, and this I can also speak for her, I didn't feel any like
Oh. Oh, it's still working. Okay, something weird happened in the screen.
So yeah, I saw her profile, but I actually haven't like felt much, like maybe an attraction or something. It was not that kind of a entry point to connect, but there was something in me calling me to connect with her. So
Yeah.
I didn't have any ideas or plans, or just like, okay, let me talk to this woman. I saw the interest. I saw the dark room. I was interested in the dark room. I saw other things we we would meet in the interest,
Yeah.
and we started to talk, and it lasted, I think, for a year,
A
if I'm not
year long, we were
mistaken.
sending messages like
Yeah,
every now and then, maybe every
not
other
often,
month or
not
so.
often.
And we
Yeah,
didn't have like strong attraction at all.
no.
And then there was a moment where Nemanja wrote me and he said, "Hey, I'm coming to teach in the Netherlands. Would you like to join the workshop?" I was like, "Sure."
Yeah,
And
you? Okay. So yeah, we started to chat, and it also passed quite some months. And I remember I came to my workshop, and I was like, ah, there's this lady. I remember her. Let me just send her a message. I don't know if she just popped into my space. I don't know how, when, doesn't matter.
because I was not going to go anymore because I signed up for the
Yeah.
workshop. And that evening I was like, oh, I feel actually super tired. I don't feel like going. I'm not going to go. And in that moment, you got this like impulse, like, let me send her a message to see if she's still coming.
Yeah.
And then when you send me the message, I just, something inside of me just said, go there. And I decided to come. And then when our bodies met, it was clear.
Yeah, I would just like to tell my part. So yeah, she said I'm coming, and again, nothing rational or like feeling something, just like an inner calling, a voice. And I remember I was on the stage preparing the music for the class. It was a big room, and I was looking at the stage. On the right was the entrance, and it's a very interesting sensation because I still remember it. I felt someone coming into the room, and I felt my whole body wanted to look. And I looked, and I saw her walking in her with high heels. And I don't know, there's such a pull, and it's such a unique feeling. I never had in this way. And she was walking towards me. I just got down the stage, and I remember your eyes and your smile, and there is such a deep meeting for me, like a heart soul meeting. And the moment our bodies touched, connected, just, I mean, I can put poetic words into it, but it was really magical for me. And yeah, and that was the moment. Interestingly enough, I also felt that day and that moment, this could be the mother of my children, which I never felt before.
Yeah,
And we
super
both felt it. We didn't
interesting.
share it right away, of
Yeah.
course. So freak the shit out of each other. But there was a resonance. There was a meeting of, and I feel it was a deep soul meeting
Yeah.
beyond the bodies, and that is undescribable. You just felt.
Yeah, and I think the reason why we want to share this story is because it so much shows that when you follow your intuition or your curiosity or your excitement in each moment, even when your logical mind says that it doesn't make any sense, that actually is the place where magic starts to happen, right? Because we were like reversing the story, and there were so many details on like coincidences of how actually we came to meet each other that day, that if one of those things would have gone differently, we might have not met that day.
Yeah.
Maybe we would have still met in another moment or another way, but it was so many things that had to fall in place, like if you didn't go to the tattoo shop, or if you would have said no to the photo of your tattoo, which you almost did, or if you would like, or if I would not have come that evening. There's like so many small moments where something inside of us says, yes, do this. Yes, ask that. Yes, go there.
Yeah. Yeah, I like to reverse engineer my life and moments. And even with this tattoo, there were so many things that almost didn't let me come to this place. So first to the Bali, to this. There's so many things that happened. In the end, they did happen. And I also know, and I believe there's millions of multiverses of different versions of my life and decisions. So maybe there's a version of me which didn't make that decision. Maybe it didn't meet Nicole, but I deeply trust that in this lifetime, this is something that led me with a reason and a purpose to meet her, to meet each other. And I feel it's an opportunity. A universe gave an opportunity to meet. And now we're going to go into it more. How does it look like to also grow that and to nourish that? Because it's an opportunity. We have it. So what are we going to do with that? How are
Yeah.
we going to continue?
Yeah. because that leads us to the second part of this episode, where we want to share with you. I think at the moment we have 8 things that we feel helped us the most to take care of our relationship. And there might be many more, but these are the ones that
Many
popped
more, for
out
sure.
like at the first, that came up the first. Because we kind of needed these things also, because we went in quite intensely. Like, even though in the beginning it went slow, it also went fast, because within 2 weeks I took a plane to Estonia, where Nemanja was living, and I was visiting him immediately. And so in some ways it went really slow, because in the first 2 or 3 months we didn't have penetrative sex yet. So we went, in that sense, really slow. But in other ways, we went really fast, because within 6 months, we were in a Tantra year training together. Within the next year, we were in a 30-day diet in the Brazilian Amazon together. So there was a lot of, from the beginning, there has been a lot of growing together, which was both our longing, but it was also quite an intense ride, right?
Yeah, how I see it, the decision was also coming from a place of wanting to start a relationship in a different way than the maybe classical way, at least I know I've done in the past. And the classical ways, yeah, first 3 months, honeymoon phase, a lot of energy, a lot of chemistry moving, and then later, whatever, all these steps they come, and then arguments, and then conflicts, all these things. So the approach we had is from the first moment. Also, Nicole initiated a bit of that, authentic relating, and then other aspects of how can we meet right away from the start in a different way and explore. Because if we do the same things like we did before, actually that doesn't maybe resonate anymore. And I remember first time she came to Estonia, like 2 weeks after we met, we had already a conflict. We went to my class, and we came back home, and she was hesitating in the beginning, and she felt maybe not fully, maybe changing some details, like how I was in the workshop, and I was in the reality. She felt there was a difference in that. She felt a bit triggered. And I remember she felt resistance and tension in her body. So we were like, okay, what can we do? I remember I was calm. I was like, okay, let me receive her. And we did this. We stand in front of each other standing. I would give resistance to her hands, and she started pushing very strongly, pushing with her whole body. And I was giving her a bit of resistance so she feels it, so she can process it, so I can also understand a bit better. So right away from the start, we started doing these kind of practices, meeting each other through maybe emotional release thing or whatever that is, to meet each other in a different way, because we knew if we want to continue, anyways, we're going to have to do it in some moment. So why not start and see? It was intense, not easy, but so far, 4 years later, I see the purpose why we did that.
Yeah, we did that quite a bit in our relationship. We, like, when there is anger, we either do like some emotional release individually, or I know times where we wrestled. I know times where I was challenging you to wrestle me. Like, we love to do that, to really meet whatever is present emotionally through our bodies, so that instead of lashing out to each other, we like move that energy through our bodies, through our breath, through our sound, and through our movement. So that was actually not in one of the 8, but I think it should be in there. That we like, instead of lashing out emotions to each other, we move it through our own breath, sound, movement, and body, and that has been really helpful for us. And also, it's good to say that we are not perfect, so we had also many times maybe where we were lashing out at each other. But that was actually the first thing here on the list, was conscious communication. And we have an agreement there since day one: no blaming and no complaining.
No complaining about the other.
Yeah.
So it's the approach of coming more from love and from longing, instead of like, it's you who did that, it's this. And so we learned from the start to approach it. Again, one of the approaches we have is to come from that place.
Yeah, no blaming, no complaining. So it's not okay in our relationship for me to say, you did this, or because of you, I feel like this. Rather, I would say, hey, I noticed when you said that I feel sadness in my belly, for example.
Yeah. And it's true, we have not done that always perfectly. We failed many times.
We failed many times.
But the core we have in all this, we know that even if we mess up, I deeply trust her. I deeply know her heart, and I know her well, so I know where it comes from. And sometimes I know it comes from her place. So I don't try to judge her judging me, and we always try find a way to meet back in love.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think also with the conscious communication, what we've been doing a lot is listening to each other without interrupting.
Mm.
And especially at the beginning, in the first few years, we would set timers. So we would do 5 minute or 10-minute shares.
Mm.
And then one can share and the other is just listening and receiving.
Yeah,
Just
fully
listening
receiving.
and receiving.
Yeah.
And this also has been so beautiful, eh?
Yeah.
Like feeling very received in that.
Yeah, it's a simple practice, but I do know even from the beginning when we started to do that in the first month in our calls in Zoom, I never felt such a deep connection with another woman in an intimate relationship just because of this part. Hey, I actually feel seen, heard, felt, not just through the ears, but the whole body can feel. And to be fully received like this, it just cracks open the heart and creates true connection.
Yeah. I think that was the focus in the first few months also, to really create that true connection. So we did a lot of eye gazing. We did a lot of we did a lot of making love in the first few months, but a lot in the energy, right? We were a lot connecting energetically and physically, but we would go really slow, like with actually going into our first full-on lovemaking.
Yeah, I'll speak for myself. I wanted to approach Nicole differently, what I named before, to approach also sexuality differently, because I know myself in the past, I would go into that very quickly. Also, I wanted to approach Nicole in connection to my heart, because I know in the past my sex would be disconnected from the heart. So I wanted to have time to not over focus on the penetration, but to really meet her body energetically. And sure, we can be naked and many other things, but we would not go into penetration. That helped me a lot to open up more and to feel her more. And for me, that was a game changer.
Yeah. And then after we were together 6 months, we went into the Tantra training, and that completely changed us as well. And there, I mean, we could share so much in this episode, but like I will link a link below this episode to a post where I will share the biggest challenge of each year in our relationship and the biggest gift of each year in our relationship, and also how we met the challenge, because I know there have been some questions around what has been your biggest challenge and how have you been dealing with it. So I want to refer to that post for that. And also in the next episode, we will go a bit deeper into that as well. But let's go to so conscious communication has been a big one, and that also includes honesty and openness. So as much as we can, we share very openly and honestly about what's alive inside of us and what we're feeling and how we're doing.
And expressing emotions, I will name, not destroying emotions at the other, whatever, but like when we use the word consciously, means with awareness coming from that place, because there's a big difference in if you feel whatever you feel, just to throw it at the other. But there's a structure that can be created so we can actually receive and share that in a beautiful way.
Yeah, so there is awareness on the emotions rather than reacting from the emotions as much as we can. And also there we have been failing many times.
We practice.
So the second one for taking care of the relationship that has been really helpful is to stay curious and present with each other. And what that means is to not make any assumptions or judgment about who the other is. And I think this happens a lot in relationships, that there will be a point where you're assuming that you know your partner, but actually, I feel we are changing all the time. Like not only us, I feel everyone is changing and evolving all the time, but especially also if you're doing a lot of growth and a lot of deepening inside of yourself and with each other, I feel it's so powerful to meet each other with fresh eyes every day as much as we can.
I feel this is one of my most important practices, and I always give this example. of a flower in a garden. I remember in our previous house, there was a beautiful garden, there was a beautiful luscious flower. So my practice was to enter the garden each day when I go to my office in the garden and to see this flower with fresh eyes instead of just coming first day like beautiful, second day like beautiful, third day like whatever flower, I seen it. And I try to bring the same practice into my relationship, into all that I do, because like Nicole says, we work a lot on ourselves, so we change all the time. And even 2 days ago, I felt like, wow, I actually want to bring more curiosity to get to know her. And I felt also longing, hey, in curiosity, like, hey, can you meet me? The curiosity, because I came from a trip and I felt I changed a lot. So there's also like an inner part of me is like, yeah, I changed a lot. I would like to actually share that. And it's beautiful when the partner wants to get to know you more. It's very powerful. It creates even more connection and more love.
And I think for me, what has been really powerful about not judging is that when I come from an experience where I have opened or changed, or there's like a new part of me coming online, first of all, that I don't judge myself for it, but also that I feel so much more safe when I can bring this part of me in the relationship if I know that I'm not going to be judged for it. And also there we've been failing.
Yeah, we were, because I mean, it's not always easy, because I would, for example, get to know her very deeply and something happens in a shift or training, whatever. And then suddenly this new creature comes into the house. And I'm like, wow, so how, like, who are you? And there's a curiosity, but also at moments there can be fear or confusion, what this means now.
Yeah.
Where are we now in all this? It's a transitional period. And if there is a curiosity and deep breath and relaxation, we can meet, even if it's step by step. It doesn't need to be right away all together.
Yeah, because it needs some like attunement time, right? Because that's the third one that we feel has been really helpful in our relationship, that we both have like experiences where we grow together. So we go together on a plant medicine diet, or we go together to a tantra training, or together to a temple training. But then also we have the growth experiences individually. So maybe Nemanja goes into a men's retreat. I maybe travel to Mexico and go into a dark room by myself. And especially those that we do separate from each other, they need the biggest like retuning to each other. And that can sometimes give shakiness, because it feels like meeting a new person, basically.
Yeah, it can be scary, but again, it can be super exciting, because you're like, hey, I'm meeting someone new, and see how the body responds, and like, wow, I remember even now when I came from Spain from a men's retreat, she told me like, yeah, you feel very different. And I asked her like, what do you feel is different? So she named 3 things, and that's also good for me to see, because I don't always see from inside out what's happening. Hey, I changed this happened, and then right away I see how it affects everything, how we communicate, how she maybe is more relaxed, more connected to me, or maybe more tense. So we can explore always these topics, and it's an opportunity to meet in a new way.
Yeah. So one other thing that also has been really helpful is that we support each other's passion fully. And this is so important for me also, that like very practically to simple things sometimes, even that when I have a call in the evening, you cook for me, or when you have a call, I will cook for us, right? So there's this practical support in our household where we are in like supporting each other's passion to blossom, but also emotionally and spiritually, I feel we are in full support of embodying our deepest passion and living that to the max.
Yeah, the support is a big theme, especially, at least I know these 4 years in our journey, we've been growing our businesses and shifting a lot, and then COVID began, and I feel support was such a big piece to stay centered, stay grounded, to stay clear. And we definitely are here for each other very strongly in all that's in the shakiness, in the celebrations. And I feel this is one of the most important pieces for me in the relationship, to feel that support, to feel in the understanding, and to stand beside my partner when she's moving forward, or when she falls. Like, we are in this together.
Yeah. So one other thing, because I think I want to keep this one a bit later. So we shared 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah. So one other thing that I really love, it's very simple, but very powerful, is that every single night before we go to sleep, we share 3 things that we've been grateful for that day.
Yeah.
And it's not allowed to talk about work in that, because
Mhm.
we are both entrepreneurs that work a lot from home. So that means a lot of our daytime is filled with conversations about work, is filled with activities around work. So when we go to bed and we go to sleep, we do our best to not bring work into our bedroom, basically, literally. So we shared 3 things that we feel most grateful about, and we have an agreement that we also need to do that when we have an argument. So there are times where I would go like, I feel grateful about this, this, and this. Good night.
Yeah, those are the moments where actually this practice is very important.
Very important.
Because it's also an invitation to come back to your body, come back to your heart without the stories, but also come back to each other. Even if it's shared like this, like, yeah, I feel grateful about this, that, thank you, bye. Even when that happens, still, I notice in those moments that there's
it brings a connection.
Yeah, it brings a connection, even if it's not the most awesome connection. Maybe it's not about looking at it differently, but still, it's a way to still be grateful for the day. There's always something to be grateful about the day.
Yeah.
Always, even if the worst possible day, situation, whatever we feel, if you look beyond, then sometimes I remember Nicole would say, like, I don't feel anything grateful about today. I'm like, love, try. No, I don't feel, and I try. And then she tries and she actually brings and sees, and that relaxes me and her. And,
yeah. And always we have at least one that is also connected to each other, or that I say something is connected to you or to us.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's easy to forget what we're grateful about. So this is a good, really good reminder.
Yeah. Yeah. So we have 3 more. The next one is polarity. Actually, someone had a question about that. She said, how do you practice polarity in your relationship?
I start?
Yeah, you start.
Okay. Well, first of all, polarity topic is a very important topic in my life. It's also something I love and study and support others, but also is because I want to nourish this relationship. This is what Nicole shared. It's very important for me. It's a priority to take care of this being that is also us, besides the individual ones. So for polarity, we do many different small things, maybe throughout the day, especially because we work in the same house. It's very important to get it entangled and meshed, the work, and then it can affect the polarity. So, sometimes we just pass on, we just pause and kiss each other, we dance. This is one of our strongest polarity practices, so to speak, to bring back that clarity and, moving together, but still she can let go in that sense.
Or maybe I go into your office and I shake my ass a bit.
She can, so sometimes, which really works well for me, she just comes in, she just sits on my lap without even asking. She just like starts sitting on me. I'm in the middle of work, which is not always practical or good, but
good for polarity.
But really good for polarity. She just sits and she just looks at me with her eyes, and it's like, so we have these kind of things where I come to her or we dance, we just break the pattern of going into, I'm in my own little world, and it's very, I would say it can be very easy to lose then polarity in this sense. And,
I think what also really helps is that we work in different spaces. So we don't sit in the same room working. So I have my space that I work in during the day and you have your space. And I think that's also
very important.
Very important. Yeah, because we spend a lot of time together. We spend a lot of time in the house. And I think it's beautiful to bring attention to polarity. And I also believe that like when I'm working, I have a big masculine energy. So I can really I have like this rocket force that goes forward. And I think what I really love is that when you see I am like too much in my masculine, you also consciously come to invite me for a dance. Because when I dance with Nemanja, I need to let myself be led by him. And that really helps me to melt back into my feminine and to breathe out and to feel that I'm held. And it helps me to soften and come back into my feminine.
Yeah, and also very important piece in overall polarity work, which I deeply believe in, is to work on my own polarity within myself. So when I can meet more clearly my own masculine, my own feminine, and have an integrated part of that, and the more I notice I work on that, the more I can become also sensitive and sensible, even from the other room. I'm sitting there, suddenly poof, there's an awareness of coming to this room and see her and see that she's maybe tense or whatever, then invite her for a dance. So my own masculine practice to become more sensitive, more tuned, and also working with my own feminine. So when I have a more clear polarity within myself, I notice I can create, or we can create, more polarity between each other and not be so dependent on the one. No, we come from verticality, we come from a clarity from within. That's how I also perceive
Yeah.
polarity.
But inside of that, I would say that in our relationship, I am feminine essence, you are masculine essence. And we do play with switching that up sometimes. So sometimes I go in my masculine, you go in your feminine, but it doesn't happen a lot. But we do play with it sometimes. I would say that I'm more in my masculine when I'm working.
Yeah.
And then I really need some conscious time to breathe that out when my workday is finished, for example.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's an interesting dance of these kind of two elements within us, and also to recognize and notice and also learn about it, how the other one functions and operates. So I know well how Nicole operates. I know well when she's in her masculine and what's the purpose of that. I also know when she's, I'll use the terminology maybe, like she spends a lot of time in that energy. She wants to come back to the feminine, but sometimes she cannot maybe do it alone. So we are also here to support each other in that. It's beautiful to dance, and I'm okay with being my feminine. I love my feminine.
Yeah, he loves his feminine, and you're quite comfortable with it. When we met, no, but like over the years, you've become really comfortable with it, like to the point where you lead temples also in the men's retreat, where you are very comfortable with that.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I overall my whole life I've been comfortable with feminine. I'm also a dancer, and dance and movement is a feminine expression. So my feminine is very, now also the last 4 years since we're together, different. It evolved, it changed, it grew, and I'm very proud of my feminine. Even though when I was younger I was very ashamed of that, and I was also afraid, will someone else shame me about this? So my feminine now is very confident, very clear, and I know how to express it, and I know she can receive that. So that creates a even more polarity to play with.
I think we could do a whole episode on this, but this episode is kind of a summary, like a whole summary of like the fundamentals of our relationship or something like that. Yeah. So the sixth, like the last two ones, I actually feel like I want to go into those in the next episode, because one of our biggest challenges, I would say, in the 4th year of our relationship was around the exploration of monogamy and open relating. And this has been and still is in some ways, quite a sensitive and challenging topic inside of our relationship. And these two tips that we were going to share are about honor self and honor other, but are also about one of our core values: don't commit to me, but commit to growth, and I'll meet you there. Those are the two that have been tested the most in this. They have been tested the most in this year. And we felt like we want to do a full episode on that and to share a bit about our exploration, because we feel that there's many people asking themselves these questions or exploring this topic of, do I want a monogamous relationship? Do I want an open relationship? And I think what was really alive for me in that is that I wanted to have resonance and intuition at the core of our relationship, also with intimacy and sexuality. And yeah, that has opened an exploration for us that we have a lot to share about, because this episode would become way too long. But maybe to close these pillars, maybe we can share a little bit about something that really helped us in our sex life. I just thought about that, because we've actually been exploring quite a bit with like, are we only having sex like on spontaneous moments, or are we also making sex dates? And it's actually has been really helpful for us to have both. Because we have been times where we would like work with sex dates, and then we would have times where we would completely let that go and just only have spontaneous moments. But especially because we also have times where we are really busy and there's lots of things happening. I feel actually that just saying like that evening we have a date together, and that doesn't necessarily mean that we have to have like penetrative sex. It can also be that we massage each other, or that we do beautiful practices together, or that we, I don't know, whatever wants to happen in that moment. But I do feel I wanted to share this one because I do feel it has been really supportive for us to have both. So at the moment we do both. We have dates together in the house. We also have dates outside. We also go for dinner and stuff like that and do fun things together. But I do feel that this is an important one, to have that blend of both.
Yeah, because we spoke about polarity, and polarity it's a big field. And what we also do, like she shared, of course, we have dates outside, we go for dinners, but in the house, these parts of like how can we nourish the intimacy, there's many ways to do that. And sometimes it's not always a penetrative experience, sometimes just physically. Sometimes we just meet our bodies in different ways. We do belly to belly, we do this, maybe we do some practices, which we did more in the past than now, but we also, I feel I want to also bring this more into our relationship again. And I really love the part of having a spontaneous possibility to meet. Maybe it's just, I'm walking through the room, she walks in, just boom, something happens. And I really love the structure more. The masculine approach is like, hey, we have this is our night, this is our date. It's a sex date, and many things can happen, but we usually know what's going to happen. But the important is that for me, I notice it nourishes me. Like, okay, I can also, I know we have that schedule. It's going to happen, because when we say it's going to happen, it's going to happen. Sometimes just following the flow or residence or
Yeah,
that
the
has
date is gonna happen, because also we had a time where when sex they started to feel like, oh, now I already know I need to have sex, and it started to have like a reverse effect on me,
yeah,
where I started to feel resistance towards these dates.
yeah,
But actually, since we felt like, okay, maybe it's more a connection date, and then there is the possibility to go into sex, was much more like exciting for me.
yeah. It was a big
Yeah.
shift, also a bit of a, I have to say, a bit mental shift to understand what that is, and it's also created to support us. That's the whole point of the day. It's for us to meet, to create more love, to open up to love.
Yeah.
So yeah, that also definitely created more polarity, more love, more consistency. Very important,
Yeah.
consistency in that. Instead of leaving that flower to without water, no, we want to water that plant.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Beautiful.
Yeah, we'll share more about the other piece in the next episode.
Yeah, the next episode, we're going to share more about our journey of monogamy versus open relating and all the challenges that have come on our path with that.
Yeah, and understanding what actually that is, we're going to explain, because for us, maybe it's something else, for you, maybe it's something else. So we're going to play and explain what that is for us.
Yeah.
And how that plays out.
So, and as we haven't recorded this episode yet, if you have any questions coming up or curiosities around that, you can send those questions in our private messages, and we can see if we can include them in recording the episode.
Sure.
Amazing. So thank you so much for listening, and already looking forward to see each other again next week. Much love.
Bye.
Did you receive any inspiration, motivation, or powerful breakthroughs by listening to this episode? Then please share this episode by taking a screenshot and tagging me in your stories at nicole.nima.costeres. I would love to celebrate you, share you in my stories, and it would mean so much to have my work reach more powerful, passionate women like you. Thank you so much, and looking forward to see you next week.